Yo, peace, beloved. What's the deal, y'all? It's your boy Poppy Screw. Not good with being on camera like that, so it's gonna be a couple awkward moments, you feel me? But I'm gonna try to do this in one take. I'm trying to keep it as short as possible with y'all, right? First of all, please, thank you for coming to the channel. Not please, but you know what I mean? Thanks for coming through the channel. Be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. Feel me? Yeah, so thank y'all for coming through, man. The purpose of this channel is to help those that are going through the current struggle that we got going on. I don't want to say the words because, I might get flagged or whatever the case may be. But you know the struggle I'm talking about. There's a lot of people out here right now really not working, or your hours have been reduced, so the amount of money that you may have had at one point in time to provide food and such for your family, you might not have it as much as you had once upon a time, right? That's the core audience that I'm trying to build, right? Because this channel is actually to help the people. This isn't for purposes of me just displaying, oh look, hey guys, look what I can do. It ain't for that, you know what I'm saying? It ain't about me trying to show off, showcase my skill set or whatever the case may be. I'll get further into that later as far as my skill set, how deep it does go, or whatever the case may be. But this channel is dedicated really for people that's struggling right now. You might have children at home, remote school, you might not be working, you might have, just that much more limited amount of money and access to food and things like that. And shout out to all of the delivery services that we have. But a lot of times when you buy those things, by the time it gets to you, when you're done eating it, you feel like it wasn't worth it and you spent $50 for 5 tacos. You know what I mean? So this isn't to take away from them, but this is just to show people that with way less than $50, you could turn something real simple into a real good meal for you, yourself, if you just by yourself or whatever the case may be, or your lady, or your boyfriend, your husband, whatever the case may be, and your children also. And just take, just a small amount of money and turn it into something, that you'll be real happy with, you know what I mean, for a lower price point. So when you come to my channel, there's nothing you'll see on my channel, at least in the near future, anytime soon, that you'll ever see that will cost more than $20. That's a guarantee. There's nothing you'll see that costs more than $20. My first video, the genesis I call it, was because I said, you know what, let me stop BSing and then just put some content up. That's content I made on an entirely different app. I got a lot of comments on it like I normally would, just posting my food that I make, and I said, you know what, let me just start my YouTube. Because I know me, when I get something started, I have to finish it, you feel me? So, I just made it. There's no instructions there, I've already been flagged for copyright to the video because of the music. So that's just the inception of it, the beginning of it. That's why I call it the genesis, right? Like I said, this is a page for people that don't have it like that. And it's also for those that may have still been getting money through this whole entire situation. And you might, know how to put things together. And you're just like, oh, I never seen that before. Let me try that out. Nice, cool little recipe. You feel me? It's for that, you know what I mean? It's not to be like, hey guys, today I'm gonna make, the wildest thing you could think of. It looked good making it, but in reality, it's not readily accessible to people like that. You know what I mean? I could make those things, and I actually really can make those things, but I'd rather continue on my path of helping those that may not have the actual funds to buy those things, to make them, to, just give people just alternative ways of thinking on how to feed yourself and your family, right? But in my beginnings, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Crown Heights / Bed-Stuy. I grew up on 114 Brooklyn Avenue. You know what I mean? And I also simultaneously grew up in Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn at 951 Putnam Avenue, apartment 1A. That apartment right above the corner store. There was a different dude that owned it back then, clearly, but I live right above it. My window right on Ralph Avenue. Feel me? So back in the 90s, I'm born in the early half of the 80s. You feel me? I don't want to give too much of my age away. Y'all could, diddle with the numbers as much as you want. But I grew up in the 90s, and we had these TVs that we either had 2 small dials on the TV, the big back TVs, not the joints with the remote. Remotes came later. Like, that's crazy. Remotes came later, right? But we had these TVs with the big backs, and had the 2 dials on them, and the channels we had were channel 2, channel 4. This is New York City I'm talking about. I don't know about anywhere else, because I'm sure you go, as soon as you leave out the city, it's different. So we had channel 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13, right? Now, if you had the TV with the 2 small dials, then you have more channels on the second dial, right? But if you had one TV with the bigger dial, you could go a little bit further, right? So I remember being a young man, baby, child, whatever you want to call it, because I was still a kid. Just always being interested in a lot of different things, right? So I grew up, like I said, I don't even know if I mentioned that. I'm of the Jamaican diaspora, you know what I mean? Specifically West Kingston, even more specifically Denhamtown, you know what I mean? But yeah, back to the TVs, right? So I would eat, we would eat regular Jamaican food. Like, it wasn't as, as highly sought after back then as it is now, right? So we would have liver, kidney, what they call offal, you know what I mean? Organ meat, basically, rice, cabbage, corned beef, bully beef, what we call it, you know what I mean? A lot of tin food, things like that. Also had fresh food also, but a lot of my food was just that one specific, culture of food. So one day, I don't know what caused me to go past channel 13 this particular day, but I guess it was out of boredom. So I went to had a channel called Channel 21, right? I forgot the actual the letters of the channel, but Channel 21, and I went on there one day, and I'm seeing a young, and I figured it out later, but it's a young Emeril Lagasse, and he's making regular sandwiches, regular 2 slices of bread, couple pieces of meat, couple pieces of cheese. That was his segment. That was his show. It wasn't no bam, 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 all that. If you know who Emeril Lagasse is, you know what I'm talking about. But it wasn't no big time Emeril, because back then there weren't any celebrity chefs, right? Celebrity chefs came quite some time later. Not that further along in the future, but in the grand scheme of things, it was some time later. So I would see chefs like him, Julia Child. I would watch Julia Child. Jacques Pepin, I call it Chocolate Man. You know what I mean? That guy loves chocolate, French dude. Shout out to him. I remember watching him on Chop, some years later, shout out to Chop too. Watching him on Chop some years later, and I forgot what round it was. It had to be round 1, because I don't think he made it further. And it was, cooking or whatever, and then at the end of the dish or whatever, he just pulls out a random bag of chocolate out of his pocket and puts it on the food. They was like, yo, bro, we saw you take the chocolate out of your pocket. You're done. Get out of here. Beat it. So he got disqualified. But I grew up watching his shows like with him on it, Jacques Pepin, Julia Child, Emerald Lagasse, a young Emerald Lagasse, R.I.P. Julia Child as well. Who else? Martin Yan from Yan Can't Cook. Right, and it was another Asian dude, I don't remember his name. But I would imagine that he was taller than Martin Yan because his voice was a little bit deeper. He was just cool. He was like, here, so today we're gonna make whoop-de-wop, you feel me? So I'm like, man. And it was interesting to me to see like other culture, cuisines, like other people's way of eating. Like, and especially, it hit me because I'm like, I would see these Asian people, because the assumption naturally would be that they're Chinese, like back in the 90s. Like, we didn't know. You know what I mean? You see an Asian, you just automatically think Chinese. But I would say to myself, like, that don't look like the Chinese food that I get from the Chinese restaurant, you know what I mean? So it always interested me to where I was like, just very curious now. I'm like, oh, that looked like it tastes good. I don't even know what that tastes like at all. I have no inkling. I have no measurement to gauge, like, how does that taste, because it wasn't available to me. So just that factor of wanting something that you can't have was very prominent for me in my journey, so to speak, into, you know, this culinary world, you know what I mean? So I would see those people cook and I'd be like, damn, I don't even know what it tastes like, but I want to taste it. So as a child, I used to watch these things and think these things. So the older I got, eventually my dad, my pop, R.I.P. Mr. James, you know what I mean? He got sick. He had diabetes or whatever. And one of the things that, you know, affect you when you have diabetes, your eyes start to go. So I remember one day, fix that up, can't, you know, no vibes. No vibes. But one day, he was like, it was breakfast. He was making some breakfast. He was frying some eggs or whatever. And he took some oil from underneath the cabinet and he put it in the frying pan. And luckily, that particular day, he walked away for a second to do something. And he came back and he was like, why does it smell like that in here? So he looks to check the oil. He goes back under the counter to get the oil. And when he looks at the oil now, it's pine salt. Right. So it was at that moment he knew that he couldn't really, you know, provide the meals anymore. So he looked at me, he said, look, today I'm gonna show you how to cook. I said, cool, Pop. It's my pop, like, you know what I mean? Anything he wanted me to do, I was with it, you know what I mean? So, you know, he showed me how to peel the chicken and things like that. And it's funny, like, looking at chicken and then actually the first time touching it raw, like to cook it, like to prepare it, it's different. Like, it's that that raw chicken skin, that cold, slimy, the fat underneath it, like all of that, like it's different. You know what I mean? So once I got over that, I don't know what I expected it to feel like. I don't know. Anyway, you know what I mean? So fast forward. So he shows me just the very most basic, okay, this how you stew chicken, right? This is how you cut the vegetables them up, you let them fry, whatever the case may be, saute, you know what I'm saying? And this, put this with this, and this, he just basically showed me the basics of, you know, how to prepare a meal, you know what I mean? And being that now I have the sole responsibility, like 70% of the responsibility of cooking, because, you know, when he got sick, he couldn't work anymore. Just a little backstory, he couldn't work anymore. He had his own business, he was a welder, mechanic, he put up gates and doors and things like that all throughout the tri-state area, right? right? So he has a little boy, he had me with him up and down. I'm on highways, Corvette, like all that, you feel me? Up and down everywhere, like just everywhere. All 5 boroughs. I'm in Jersey, I'm in Connecticut. I think he took me to PA one time, maybe. I might be making that up. But anyway, but all throughout the tri-state, you know what I mean? So once he got sick, he couldn't really provide like that anymore. But luckily, my mom's, shout out to Miss Terry, all day in America and every country in the world, you feel me? Luckily she was there to hold it down because she had a degree and she was a hematologist at Montefiore Hospital in the Bronx, right? So when me and my pop was being in the crib or whatever the case may be, I know my mom's coming home at a specific time. It's clockwork, set a clock. She's coming all the way from the Bronx back to Brooklyn. But it's clockwork. It's within a 10-minute window of her being off. And that's because of the train, not because of her, you feel me? My mom's never been late for work in her life. There's a whole nother story behind that too, but get into that another time. But yeah, so I had the responsibility now of providing food for the crib. So, you gotta take the chicken out. I was the person, I had to take the chicken out because I knew you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, I'll take the chicken out because I had to take the chicken out, you feel me? So I'm taking out chicken and I'm throwing it, seasoning it, I'm cooking it, and I'm doing all of these things. And for the most part, I did it because I was always interested in the cooking, because I used to play around in the kitchen because, like I said, we grew up in the 90s, so we were what you would call latchkey kids, right? So, parents couldn't afford daycare or, somebody to watch you. We young kids, we like under 10 in the crib, just maintaining ourselves. Me, my little cousin Sheldon. Sheldon, if you see this, please, man, hit me up. I ain't seen you in 10 years, man. And my little brother Patrick, right? So we'll be in the kitchen, calling ourselves making omelets and shit. Like, they never burnt the crib down though, thankfully. You know what I'm saying? But moving along, when I got, like I said, my pops was I was like around 12, 13 years old, something like that. My pops really showed me how to put things together. So I took that and I ran with it, and the biggest feeling of joy I had at those times was him telling me, yo, Pop, how's it? Yeah, man, it's good, man. Yeah, man, it's good. That would make me feel so happy and proud about what I just did, that I did something that made him happy. You know what I mean? So anyway, from there, I just gradually, exponentially just kept doing what I was doing, right? At one point in time, fast forward to I was 22, something like that. I went up to an art institute. I don't remember the exact name of it, but this guy Duff, the baker guy,